As gamers, we have certain franchises that have been around for quite a long time, and some of them have been much beloved, others people have grown tired of. But the perfect game franchise is just this nice pizza where you constantly take another slice and think, this is nice, I like this. But at some point, you get tired of eating the pizza and you're thinking, you know what, I would like to have something else. I want something to be familiar, but I want it to taste a little bit different, feel a little bit different, and make me enjoy it in a different way. This is where sequels come into play. However, lately sequels have kind of become a different kind of point of argumentation. Considering the fact that if we're taking it for example Call of Duty, I feel that there's definitely a lot of franchise fatigue going on with that franchise. Every single year a new game comes out, and obviously this has been the thing as long as the franchise has been around. Now that's fine, but the problem with Call of Duty players in particular is that they don't really seem to know what exactly they want, in my opinion. Whenever any of the Call of Duty studios decides to change something about the game, it is often met with we don't like this. Give it back to the old place. We don't like this. As an example, in Black Ops Cold War, they introduced a brand new kill and/or score streak. This way you could still die, and it would help newer players to still get their score streaks, while hardcore players could be having their usual, I'm going on a streak, I'm going to get a high streak, I'm going to get a kill streak. This was very quickly met with a lot of backlash saying, but we want kill streaks instead, or we want traditional score streaks instead. Rather than embracing the change and having something new and fresh within the franchise, rather than the usual I'm getting a 9 kill streak so now I can call in a VSAT. The times of old where you would jump into Black Ops 1 and you would get a chopper gunner, VSAT and dogs, they're kind of past, and I feel that franchises, as they grow older and older, especially in the case of Call of Duty, something like that should definitely try to innovate as much as possible. Another example of this is Battlefield 2042. The brand new specialists within that game have been met with criticism saying that everyone wants to have the class system back like in Battlefield 4. It is held up to a microscopic level of like, this is everything that was in Battlefield 4, a game that's been out for 8 years and also had a very terrible launch, and this is what is in Battlefield 2042. Sure, features are missing, sure there are things definitely missing that are supposedly in the game, but I feel that often gamers out there really want to have basically the same game but then slightly different, and I don't really think that's how it should be going in terms of sequels. I think personally that if you want to have a sequel to a game, you should have a familiar feeling type of game, but it should try to innovate and push the franchise further. Battlefield 2042 tried doing this with a specialist system rather than the traditional classes system, and while some of them feel like they have a better place in there than others, there's definitely room for improvement. Obviously, as seasons come in and other specialists come around, stuff like that might actually become more interesting. I feel that franchise fatigue and trying to innovate the system is mostly just a multiplayer problem. A lot of things, especially in shooters, have been done dozens of times, and because of that, it becomes increasingly difficult to do so. I think gaming as a whole, for those players out there who've played the game for a while, is increasingly difficult to really find a new type of game out there or something that feels really fresh. If I want to give a few examples, then I'm going to say, for example, It Takes Two, as well as A Way Out. Two very unique and interesting co-op experience I've enjoyed very much. While they really focus on problem solving with each other, it's one of those games out there that actually shows a very proper co-op experience that really makes you work together. Something that is not really often around anymore, especially when it comes to single player. Single player games are definitely not really out of this question either, considering that most sequels nowadays try to push the narrative forward, but often kind of feel rather flat. Far Cry is definitely guilty of this. They are not really innovating that franchise whatsoever, and it seems to kind of follow the same formula over and over and over and over again. I feel that nowadays games are becoming less and less of experiences and more a service. You get a game for $60 and then you kind of get stuck with it for a little while. It kind of does make you wonder why they're not going on a Battle Royale type of route like with Warzone, where you have the base game and they keep expanding upon that as time goes on. Destiny 2 is another excellent example of this, where they're doing back-end and behind the scenes stuff so they can basically keep the game rolling for years to come. If you have a solid foundation to a base game that you're trying to use as a service, I personally don't really see the point anymore in sequels as a whole. Multiplayer as a whole can often kind of feel like you're playing another Diamond that doesn't shooter and/or a Diamond that does an action game or anything along those lines. Unique experience within the established franchises and/or genres are becoming more and more difficult to find. Something like GTA and Red Dead Online are two games that are unique in their own regard. However, they're the only two games out there, and if you're sick of that, good luck trying to find something else. The same thing kind of goes when it comes to the shooter genre. There's a little bit of everything, but a lot of these franchises out there have been established franchises for a long time, and they kind of stick to their own formula because they know it works and they know that people will buy their games. For that reason, the fear of trying to improve their franchise or try to innovate too much is often met with backlash from their current fanbase. And yeah, then they're kind of like, okay, we'll just go back on that decision because maybe it didn't work out after all, which then typically results into, hey, this is essentially the same game as we had before. Let's try not to innovate too much. It seems that game studios out there don't really often take risks anymore because games are getting more and more expensive, and well, if your game flops, then you're down in the ditches for a couple of $100 million. And well, good luck trying to earn that back, especially when shareholders are knocking on the doors wanting to get their end of the year profits. As I'm scrolling through the games that were released in 2021, there's a few things that do stand out. The first example I'm going to give you is Crash Bandicoot 4. What a great sequel that was. Prior to the release of Crash Bandicoot 4, I played through the original trilogy, and well, they were the remakes, but my god, what a great sequel this was. It really captured the essence of the original games and expanded upon it in a very good way. I tremendously enjoyed my time with it, and at times, this game could be brutally difficult, which is something that we don't really see these days all that much. Considering the difficulty nowadays is really dumbed down in a lot of ways, and while every game within the franchise seems to be getting easier and easier. Some sequels I do also want to shout out is Resident Evil Village, Life is Strange True Colors, Forza Horizon 5, Hitman 3, and Spider-Man Miles Morales. Especially Spider-Man Miles Morales is something that has just taken the original game and just further improved upon it. If you ever have yourself the pleasure of owning a PlayStation console, please do yourself the huge favor and play Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales. One of the most satisfying games to play when it comes to hand-to-hand combat. It is so good. Two games that I also want to shed a light on as well that are not actually sequels but have come out this year and I've actually find interesting because they were really doing something different and because they were not also a sequel, which is Deathloop and Returnal. Especially Returnal is a tough as nails game and is not easy to get down, but it's definitely one of those more unique games that feels very rewarding to play because of the difficulty as also the fact that there's not really anything out there like it, which is something that is quite difficult to find nowadays. So something like Returnal is definitely a breath of fresh air, even though it can be incredibly frustrating to play at times because you died and you can start over from the start again. You know, that type of game. Sequels are nice and all, but more often than not, they turn out to be a disappointment and don't really capture the essence of either the original game or the previous titles that have been released, because they're trying sometimes too hard to innovate, but at the same time we want to innovate too. It's a really complicated and irritating kind of spiral that we find ourselves in time and time again. Last of Us 2, anyone? Anyways, those are some of my thoughts. Of course, I'd love to know yours in the comments down below. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave it a like, subscribe for more, and if you really like what's here on the channel, please do consider becoming a member, like Chloe, Robert, Alus Fire, Captain Price, Shakulu, Madman Dakota, and Dr. Strange Love. Join them and the other fellow members by clicking the join button down below. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all later. Ah, crap, I forgot about Watch Dogs Legions. Who am I kidding?